When I was 17 years old, my dad unexpectedly passed away. I was a junior in high school. I was the one who found him dead of a heart attack out in the woods, where he was cutting and splitting firewood. My mother made me return to school a week after the funeral, and I wasn't prepared mentally or emotionally for that. She also had me return to my after-school job. Because I had work that started after my last class, I had permission to have a car to drive to work. My first day back to class was stressful, but ordinary at the same time. The teachers and my friends all knew I had a traumatic week before and were very kind and gave me a lot of support. I was pretty much emotionless. I was still having difficulty processing my father's death. I really just wanted to get through the school day and get to work. I've always enjoyed my work. It was less than a 20-minute drive from school. It's a short trip, and I've driven it 100 times. I could drive it in my sleep. This day, my head was still full of thoughts of my dad when someone in front of me stopped at a red light. I noticed in my mirror an older Chevrolet Caprice Classic. The driver, an old man, was leaning out the window shouting something. I could not understand, and turned my music up and paid no attention. Further up the road, another car slowed to turn, stopping me. I see the guy in the Caprice in my rearview mirror. He's hanging out his side window, shouting at me angrily. "Don't you know how to drive?" I hold my hands up and shrug. This is so uncalled for. I'm just waiting for the car ahead of me to turn. I know I've been driving well, and even with my thoughts of my dad, I wasn't distracted. I put my window up to block him out. I was less than 5 minutes to work. I looked back at him again as traffic began to move, and I saw him drawing a line across his throat with his hand, as if slicing it, saying, "I'm going to kill you." I'm a little more than paranoid at this point. He was so out of control, and I hadn't done anything to cause such terrifying actions. As I moved forward, he's riding my bumper. I began to panic as I started to comprehend this man was crazy and dangerous. My heart is pounding as this lunatic kisses my bumper with his car. When I reach work, I turn into the parking lot and assume the nut job will continue down the road. But as I was searching for a parking spot, the Caprice pulled into the lot. What kind of road rage is this? I'm in total fear as he pulls up behind me, blocking my car in the parking space. I double-click the door locks as this maniac comes up to my window. His face was so clear I could see his bloodshot eyes. He is screaming, "Open this door!" I shook my head no. He shakes the door handle and shouts again, "Open this door!" I see a screwdriver in his hand now, and he scrawled a jagged X onto my window. He's shouting in a maniacal, unhinged voice, "I'm gonna teach you a lesson. You need to know your place. I'm gonna find you and kill you." I was aware enough to hold my horn down on the steering wheel. I just held it down and let it blare. The crazy man turned, returned to his car, and took off, hitting 3 parked cars in the process. I went inside and told my manager what had just occurred, and he called the police. The police checked several security cameras in the parking lot and were able to pull a Florida license plate. When they went to his house, they found a delusional Vietnam veteran still having a flashback to the war. He was placed into a mental health program because he was a veteran. The court ordered him to not go within 500 feet of me upon his release and pay for my damaged window. I'm not happy with the court's decision to release him. I have the utmost respect for veterans, but no one has the right to attack innocent people on the road. It's made me an overly wary and scared driver on the roads. This being Florida, I can now carry a gun in my car, which comforts me. Two years ago, I worked a late shift in a rural part of the country. The road home at night was long and lonely with few other cars. Occasionally, I'd come across a stranded vehicle. Not often, but frequently enough that I always carried jumper cables, an extra gallon of gasoline, a can of Fix-A-Flat, and a toolbox. With the Fix-A-Flat, I've helped people twice. It's essential repair kit equipment. It at least will get a car to a service center quickly, without having to change a tire, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. I was driving home one stormy night, after getting off my shift at about 1 a.m. About 6 miles out of town, there was a car with its hazards flashing on the side of the road. Just past them, I pulled over to see if I could assist. When I got out in my raincoat, 2 young guys soaking wet were standing at the front of their car. I jogged up to them and asked, "What seems to be the problem?" One of the guys said the car won't start. I don't know how he said it, but I had a weird feeling. I was instantly wary of the two. "Pop the hood and let me take a look." I expected one of them to return to the driver's side door and release the hood latch, but instead he shouted over the rain to someone else in the car, "Pop the hood." I looked through the rain on the windshield and could see at least 2 more men inside the car. As I raised the hood, I had that terrible feeling something was very wrong. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw the one guy nod to the men in the car. I was very uneasy. The only thing I could do was trust in my instincts, and I felt in my gut something horrific was about to happen. My mind raced into overdrive, and I created an excuse to get some tools for my car. I think I know what the problem is. Give me a sec, as I grabbed my toolbox. I quickly turned and jogged back to my car, afraid I'd be mugged from behind any second. I didn't dare look back, pretending I'd return with my tools. But when I got back to my car, I jumped straight into the driver's seat, locked the door, and started my engine. I drove away as fast as I could, spraying pebbles and water from my tires on them. How I knew it was a trap? I don't know. From behind me, I could see the car with its headlights coming right behind me. So much for a broken down car. They were blinding me with their high beams and riding my bumper. Then they pulled up beside my car and swerved at my car, nearly making contact, only inches away. I tried to remain calm, but this was terrifying. Their windows were down, but I could not see their face in the rain and darkness. I was petrified they had guns and would open fire on me. When they were on my left, swerving again at me, I slammed on my brakes and pulled hard right, skidding onto a crossroad and hitting the gas. I drove like a madman for several miles and took another turn. At this point, I did not see anyone behind me. If they crashed or just gave up, I don't know. My heart was pounding with sweat pouring down my face. I've never known such fear. A week later, I was watching the news channel and saw a report of a man robbed and killed along that same stretch of country road. I called the police, reported my incident, and described the men who attacked. I hope it will help catch those murderers. Two years ago, my dad and I planned a summer traveling America. The basic plan was to follow the old Route 66 as best we could, camping at state and national parks along the route. We didn't have any particular schedule or places in mind. We just thought we would follow whatever interested us as we drove. Never did we believe we would have a close encounter with road rage. We took my dad's old work pickup truck because it could easily carry all our camping gear, and with the cap, we could even sleep in the bed at night if need be. Halfway through our summer adventure, we crossed the Midwest, and even had an opportunity to be storm chasers in Kansas. Kansas is boring to drive, unless Tornado Alley lives up to its name as you pass through. And it did as we traversed the state. We saw 2 tornadoes touch down in fields, and one close enough to have the wind battering our truck. They were small and no damage was reported on the radio, but it was exciting for a father and son. It was fun to be storm chasers at least for a couple of 100 miles. As we entered Texas, our truck began to leak oil, which was a nuisance. I know it's not very environmentally friendly, but Dad said it's an old truck, and he didn't want to put any more money into it. It would be retired to a junkyard at the end of summer, so we pushed on. 2 days later, we were still on Route 66 in Arizona and it was getting late. We needed to find a campground and MapQuest showed one not too many minutes ahead. But the truck started to make some pretty awful noises, a clear indication we needed to stop and make some repairs. We pulled into a parking lot at a roadhouse with a big sign, "Cold beer." I suggested we go inside and get something to eat and let the engine cool. As we walked towards the bar, we noticed there were a lot of Harleys parked outside. Not the clean Harleys weekend warriors ride back in the suburbs of Milwaukee, but hard-ridden road machines, the type that real gangs, not the gangs that shop at the Harley apparel store. We ordered a couple of hamburgers and french fries and watched a baseball game that was on the television above the bar. Looking around the bar was a dozen or more grisly-looking men in black t-shirts, loaded up with tattoos of skulls and crosses. I noticed 2 men in particular in well-worn motorcycle jackets looking in our direction. Before we finished eating, the 2 men approached our table, and not too friendly told us we were in their parking spot, and it was time for our truck to hit the road. My dad is ex-military, and I knew he wouldn't be pushed around by anyone, so I jumped in before he could speak, and said to the men we would move the truck. We didn't want any trouble. The bikers looked dangerous, and I saw no reason for us to entangle with them. Dad paid the tab and we left the roadhouse. When we were outside, we looked at each other knowing we had a little problem. We hadn't yet made any repairs to the truck. We had the hood up and one of the bikers from the bar came over to us and demanded why we were still here. I told him we had engine trouble, and he said, "I don't care, be gone in 5 minutes." We made some quick temporary adjustments and the truck sounded better. As we pulled out onto the highway, I heard the roar of motorcycles starting with blasts of high revs. In a second, the roar of motorcycles was behind us. One Harley raced up and past us and began to slow to stop us. The other bikers were in next to us and behind our truck. What was it they wanted? What was it that we had done? I have no clue. We left when they asked us to, and we remained courteous the entire time. Why were these men harassing us? I suspected that they were armed, but I did not see any guns in the roadhouse or in the parking lot. If we stop, we're probably going to get robbed and beaten. Our decision was to continue to drive no matter what. I tried calling the police, but we were in one of those weird areas where there was no cell tower coverage. Dad said keep trying until I get through. Dad kept the pressure on the gas steady not to stress the engine, but it started making noises again, and then conked out completely. Our truck rolled to a stop. The gang members pulled their noisy motorcycles up alongside, in front of and behind us. Then, for some strange reason, they turned around and raced off back in the direction in which they came. When the sound of the heavy bikes disappeared, a new sound struck our ears, the sound of sirens. "Listen," Dad said, "the police are coming." But as the sound came around the bend, it wasn't a police car at all, it was an ambulance. The sound of the siren was enough to frighten the bikers off. I was grateful for the sound of the siren. It probably saved my dad and me from a severe beating, or even death.